Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today we are talking about Snorlax. Once one of the greatest mons in the game, now a lowly ZU mon. But that's okay, because Snorlax still has a place in PU. Albeit, not a very good one. See, it's in the C tier with the likes of Ditto, Colossal, and Arboliva. Now it does this using the old fancy curse set. Curse, Body Slam. I see Crunch more than Heat Crash, and then Rest. And what makes it really difficult is we have a lot of very strong special breakers that kind of punish it whenever it tries to rest, right? It lacks that kind of recovery. But it is very good at taking special hits during the mid game and then trying to sweep up in the late game. I've seen some people try to run Sleep Talk on it, but then you kind of have to drop Crunch, which is your way to hit the ghost types. So it's just oftentimes not worth it because, oh, I don't have Crunch. I just get swept by a ghost. Poor Snorlax. It really is. It really deserves more. And it's also competing with special walls, Goodra, Florges, and Milo here. And they also have moves to prevent themselves from being too passive. Like Florges runs Calm Mind, and then his offensive sets also run Trick. It gets Synthesis over Sleep Talk. Goodra gets Toxic and to a lesser extent knock off, but still, like knocking off leftovers can be very powerful. And then there's Milo, who gets Scald to burn the physical switch-ins, and then Haze to remove any buffs that people try to give it. And Milo is just one of the best mods. So like if you want to run Snorlax to be your special defense wall, you're kind of competing with other mons that would want to fill that slot. So like, why would you use Snorlax over these three? That's simple. I lost a tournament game to Salazzle. It was really awful. We had to play in the morning. The guy couldn't do it on the weekend, so I was on my phone, on the train, and I'm just slowly getting beaten down by a Salazzle in like a very unoptimal time to be playing. And it filled me with one of the worst feelings in my gut. Because Salazzle runs a very scummy set that uses Toxic, Flamethrower, Substitute, and then often Protect, but it sometimes uses Encore. And it can disguise itself as just a regular Salazzle set, which is Nasty Plot, Terra Ground, Fire Blast, Sludge Bomb. Right, so Snorlax, I want to use it because of pure spite, because there are some ways to hard counter Salazzle. I mean, you could Spike Stack, you could Hyper Offense, you could Regular Offense. Salazzle is just mainly good at dismantling balanced teams with its Toxic set. But, if you want to stop that from dismantling your balance, here are some of the ways you can just, stop it dead in its tracks. Yeah, the Magic Bouncers, Espeon and Hattrem. Which, they can bounce back Toxic to stop you from getting poisoned. But they kind of have dubious 1v1 prospects. Like, Espeon and Hattrem can kind of take them on. Fire Blast deals a little over half to bulky Espeon, but if you have leftovers, you can stop it. And a little under half to Hattrem with a potentiality of a 2-hit KO. But they can be your checks. Then there's Purifying Salt, which is by our little friend Knacklestack, that can also get you a nice little spot in the Stealth Roxer, right? Like you can fill your team's Stealth Rock spot. But the problem is, as a rock type, you kind of lose to Terra Blast Ground from the Nasty Plot set. You switch in Knacklestack, they Nasty Plot, and now you're in a lot of trouble. And if the Scumbag sets the Terras, it's going to be a PP attrition. You can win it, unless it's running Encore. So this one is very risky to run, but can do the job. And then finally, Snorlax gets access to immunity. And thanks to that, Curselax 2-Kos with Body Slam, and if you run Max Attack Investment, it will just OHKO. Salazzle can beat that Curselax set we saw earlier with Thick Fat, with 6KO with Sludge Bomb. But if we drop Thick Fat and go immunity to stop this scumbag set, Fire Blast can 2-hit KO if it's the Nasty Plot set with a 14% chance. So, do we want to risk that? Maybe. Or we can just run full SPDEF and HP. Right? Or, as I call it, SPDEFlax. Curslax has, so much trouble fitting the move. So just drop Curse, right? We get the Body Slam, we get Crunch, we get Rest, we get Sleep Talk. Who needs to Curse? We're not going to go for a late game sweeper. Instead, we want to go for a broad check to a lot of special defense attackers. And I found that that extra HP really does help in my testing against special attackers to keep Snorlax alive much longer than it should be. And besides Salazzle, it just kind of shuts down defensive Gudra sets. Even to some extent, offensive Gudra sets. Snorlax can just come in on. And then we Terra to Fairy for Focus Blast. This can help against Hoopa. This can help against certain Typhlosion sets. But normal is so good into most special attackers. I have not Terra'd a single time with my team. So it could be a different Terra for all I know. Though I think Fairy is fine. Alright, so here is, with that set, Spadeflax, here are kind of the matchups, right? We have green is winning, yellow is either set dependent or they just kind of sit on each other. And then red are our losing matchups. And these are our top Pokemon. What are the top Pokemon Snorlax stops? We notably don't do well against Rotom Heat because it runs Pain Split. And we have a ton of HP. So we can deal damage to it, but then it's faster and it just heals back up that damage. So, no. Okay, so if we're running full Spadef Snorlax, what would be some good teammates? So for the first teammate, I picked Amoonguss because, if we don't have Snorlax's physical defense, we can just run Rocky Helmet and have something that's really good at taking physical hits. Amoonguss can take a lot of the fighting types that Snorlax doesn't like, a lot of the other physical attackers that Snorlax just hates. And a lot of the special attackers, a lot of the psychic types, a lot of the fire types that would come in on Amoonguss, Snorlax can just come in and take. So these two work very well together. Rip Globro, I would have loved to use that. At least Amoonguss can tank a knockoff. It has that going for it. So Psyshock, from Hoopa, is a threat against Snorlax because you can overwhelm Snorlax because it's not running the physical defense. And then also Focus Blast to some extent. Grimmsnarl is pretty good at dealing with Hoopa. You really want a Dark type on your PU teams. That's kind of my rule of thumb. If you don't run a Dark type, you are asking to be overrun by the tier's Psychic types. Though I guess Articuno Galar is gone, so that's a little less true of a statement. But I still think it's very important to have one. The next one is, our Hazel removal spot. And I noticed, looking at the two, what do Snorlax and Amoonguss hate to see? They hate to see Tauros Blaze. That is the worst mon for our team so far. So good news, we can just run Cram. The little duck here can just defog, but also come in and threaten the otherwise really dangerous guy that is Tauros Blaze. Now we're going to want at least one fast breaker on this team. And so here's our great coverage. Palmont, Ice Electric Fighting lets us kind of deal with Amoonguss switch-in. Lets us deal with a lot of grass switch-ins, which will either take the Electric Fighting. And it's just nice. You hit hard. I've run Revival Blessing. I think I've shown my Revival Blessing Palmont team before. But the Revival Blessing team I ran used Typhlosion Hisui. And sometimes you just want two Typhlosion Hisuis to kind of break through a team that's weak to it. In this case, there's not really a second breaker for Palmont to trade out with, right? So instead, we trade out Revival Blessing for Mach Punch for some Prio. And finally, our hazard setter, Rhydon. I considered Mudsdale. I like Mudsdale. But at the same time, Rhydon Eviolite has some great mixed bulk. Its stab can deal with things like Rotom Heat. And it's just very strong to help with a lot of matchups. It's got Terra Poison to help it deal with a lot of physical threats, like Tauros Blaze, for example. It can also deal with Tauros Blaze. I haven't clicked Store's Dance yet. That could probably switch out for another move. And that's the full team. So before we go into the matches, here's some food for thought. It has some good attack stat. It can take special hits. Could we just run 4 attack Snorlax? Is that something that could work? I don't think so, but hey, that's some innovation for you. Maybe it can. Okay, this game is a masterclass on what makes Snorlax so strong. So we lead with like Cram against Avalugg. I just go for the Surf. He hits me back with the Mountain Gale. Usually what happens here is I expect them to go for the Stealth Rock. I then go for the Surf. I roost as they go first and hit me with Mountain Gale. And I consider that, I call that like the hazard trade, like the Avalugg trade against HO teams. Which is a kind of standard first 3 turns. But this guy just goes for the attack. I don't think it quite worked out well for him, as he now just doesn't have hazards. But like also he does have Cram on low, so I guess he gets that. Like now he gets Cram out, and now I don't have Cram for Tauros. So I guess that kind of works there for him. But it's a trade I was willing to accept, as now I can go out and go into Pawmont against Sneasel. Now, I know here that Sneasel is forced to switch out because by sending in Pawmont, I'm suggesting either Scarf or Mach Punch. And he goes and he respects it. So I go into Double Shock, and now I'm sitting here thinking like, this guy is bluffing. So I Terra into Electric like, hi. Maybe he thinks I'm Choice Scarf and I can't attack, right? And I think this is Bulk Up Tauros. So I surprise him by going, hi, I'm going to Terra now. And it turns out I was wrong and I played too risky. And Pawmont goes down with my Terra. Disaster. I sent Amoonguss in because I know this thing's locked into close combat. It cannot attack any further. So he switches out, and Goodra comes in and gets Toxicked. Oh no, now what will Goodra do? Goodra will hit Flamethrower on Driplax, doing 12%. Now, if this guy thinks this is Curselax, he can look it up in his calculator, and it'll probably show about 12% thanks to Thick Fat. But I'm max HP, right? So he leaves. That's an important note for later. He leaves because he realizes he can do nothing to Driplax. I go into Grim because I expect something like Trick or Pain Split. Now Grim against Sneasel, I know it can live Triple Axle, so I do, and I hit it back with Spirit Break. This is a trade I'm fine with. Again, Grim isn't gonna do much this game. And I choose the Parting Shot. I go into Snorlax. He knows Snorlax is my switch, and he goes for Sludge Bomb. Cool. Now he goes for Sludge Bomb again. He's trying to poison Snorlax. That's his plan here. But he can't poison Snorlax. So he switches out now that Goodra is pretty much gone. And so this is kind of a matchup where not much happens between Snorlax and Cram. I mean, he can lower my attack, but I could also just, or my defense, but I could also just para him. So now I switch out. I didn't know if he was going to go for Brave Bird or Roost, but regardless, Grim was pretty good there. And now it's there. I'm going to just sit on him with my nice little Amoonguss here for a little bit. I could have gone back into Snorlax. I can't really go into Rhydon against him. So I will continue sitting here on him until he gets bored. He paras there. My Rhydon Stone Edges. I was expecting something like Brave Bird. And now I will go into Driplax because I start to realize what this set is. It's probably Scarf, but I could probably afford to, right? Like he's going to go for Leaf Storm. And now I get my Body Slam off. Now I get a very important choice to make here, and I make it. Because my logic is if he Flare Blitzes like he does here, Tauros is gone. He loses his entire Tauros, and now Snorlax easily beats the other 2 mons on his party. Right? Like even if he choice Scarfs here, even if he tricks me, there's not much I can do other than Body Slam. Like, oh no. Thunderbolt is only doing 24%. This would have cost Snorlax if I was not Spadeflax. And from this point, the game is lost for him. And that's the power of, even without Salazzle being on the other team, Snorlax's contribution. It is absurd. That was a GG. Now we'll go on to the other game, which was live commentated. Okay, so what does this team lead? I'm not seeing rocks. Interesting. What are we looking at? I'm not seeing rocks. I'm not seeing a spinner or a defogger. So if we can get Rhydon in, we're golden. They have a lot of fighting types. They're going to look to overpower my check of Amoonguss and, to a lesser extent, Cram. They're looking to overwhelm me physically, which is scary a bit. Terra this game. What's the Terra going to be? It's likely going to be on Rhydon for a third check for the fighting types. Or for Fizz. Like, for the triple Fizz offense. That's likely going to be who gets the Terra on my team. As for who I lead, I don't know. Maybe it is Rhydon, and then we go Rhydon right away. The Moth comes out. That's an easy switch into Lax. It's Toxic Spikes. People run Toxic Spikes. The Moth is gone. Who would you like? I can... Like, if he goes into a special offense threat, I just take it. Like, I can just stay in against Goodra. I don't know what his plan is here. And if he goes to a Fizz offense threat, I just go to Amoonguss. Oh, his plan was the Dragon Tail. Toxic. I don't care if Grim gets toxic. I'll be very frank with you. Venomoth comes in. Parting shot. Go to Snorlax. I'm immunity. Surprise! I don't know if that was Quiver Dance, but yeah, get out of here. Oh, another crit. Is that the... Did he crit last time, too? He did! He crit twice on my Snorlax. That's okay. Snorlax isn't really needed anymore too badly. Come on, para him. And so now... I can just go into Amoonguss. And then all your work is gone. But it's got Zen Headbutt. That's kind of scary. But if I just go into Grim? Okay. Nice Terra. Oh! Jeez. Now I'm going to go for Spirit Break. Because, I mean, I was half expect. I should be faster, right? If that's max speed, I am still faster. So I can just Spirit Break here. This is good. We're dismantling it. Okay. If you're running Toxic Spikes and you see a Poison type on the other team, this is like a free advice. Do not set the Toxic Spikes. This is probably Guts. So I'm just going to do me a favor. Yeah, this is Guts. I'm not going to T-Wave. Because some Hariyamas run Guts and then like no Orb. And they do that specifically so that they can switch on a Milo Scald. As well as just run another item for free. Uh-huh. We go to Amogus. And now what we can do is we can just synth up. What do we do here? Grim? Toxic? I don't want to Terra this guy. I do want to get Grim in front of Braviary. But maybe we can do it this turn. Cool, we can do it this turn with a nice T-Wave. Oh, he was expecting me to go for Sucker Punch, so he has a Vacuum Wave. It's a nice attack. Especially if this thing's like max speed or something, or just faster than Grim, which it should be, I think. Yeah, it is. It's some good tech, but it's not good enough. I'm going to Spirit Break. See what he does. Good. Spirit Break. Unfortunately, I got punished. That's fine. He doesn't really have a good switch in right now to a simple Stone Edge. Do I Earthquake here? Will they remember me if I Earthquake? No, I'm going to do this so that I kill Brute Bonnet. And then, as I told you a long time ago, we're going to Terra on this guy. And now I'm going to just switch into a Moongus because he can't switch out, and then he's going to knock off, and he's gone. They told me these things. Okay, now Driplax should just be able to handle Braviary. Yeah. And we win.